Ilia Topuria did the unthinkable in 2024. He went from relatively unranked 2 years ago to knocking out Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway, and being the first man to knock out Max Holloway. Need I say more? Let's break it down. Alexander Volkanovski versus Ilia Topuria. Now, a lot of people disregard this win because Volk was coming off of a knockout loss 4 months earlier. And while this is the case, and it probably did affect his ability to take a shot, I'm going to break down why I think Topuria would have knocked out Volkanovski anyway. So, let's break down the fight. First of all, Topuria does a very good job at not necessarily cutting off the cage, but just always being in front of Volkanovski, not allowing him to cut angles. The majority of this fight was sort of against the fence. Topuria is just very good at moving his feet in the correct position, always being in his stance, and just taking slow, incremental steps forward, and that was very beneficial. You see Volk, he wanted to move and he wanted to kick a lot. We see here he throws a left high kick. Topuria, he does this perfectly. Blocks with his right hand, guides it with his left. Picture perfect head kick defense. Volkanovski goes to jab. Topuria, using the high guard, almost grabs the jab and does a little bit of a slip. Right? He then goes with a left hook that's kind of meant to parry away the lead hand. You'll see him do this a lot, especially against Max Holloway. It's very effective. And then step forward, long step, and try to go for the right hand. This ends up hitting around the armpit. Volkanovski, circling away, tries to leg kick, but because Topuria pivots out, takes quite a lot of the power off the leg kick. Then you see Volkanovski try to go for a body kick. Topuria, again, blocking with the right hand, guiding with the left. For someone so boxing heavy, he does have really good kick defense. Topuria steps in for a long jab, and Volkanovski goes to the leg kick. Topuria tries to go with the right hand as Volk, circling out, and it does get blocked, but look at where Volk's feet and where his hands are and where his head is. If Volk were to get hit in that position, he would not take it well. No one would, when their feet aren't under them properly and their head's up in the air. Just something to keep note of. Volkanovski again goes for that step up lead high kick. Topuria blocks it, Volk resets and goes for a jab. And every time Volk jabs, he circles to his left or into Topuria's power. Now, Topuria slips on the inside of the jab and he doesn't let the right hand go. But take a look at Volk's feet and his head. Can you take a punch in that position? Absolutely not. Again, we're seeing a pattern here. Volkanovski goes for a lead body kick. Topuria steps in and he sort of smothers it with his hips. He's very good at just taking the necessary steps to eliminate the force on the kick. And he goes for a jab to the body. Punches to the body when someone is kicking. Excellent technique. I'm very much behind it. It's how Dominic Reyes so-and-so dropped John Jones with the left body shot. And then Volk resets. Goes in for a jab. Topuria slips on the inside. Throws the right hand. Misses, but again, Volk not in a very good defensive position. Pulling his head very far out and lifting it very high and not having his feet under him. Topuria starts going to this jab to the body a lot more often as Volk pumping out the jab. Topuria slips, jab to the body. It's a very good technique to use, especially when someone's moving their head a lot, because one, when someone's punching, they can't move as much. And two, if someone's moving their head, their feet have got to be planted, which means their body stays in place, so just good technique to use. Topuria goes for the lead hand parry, right hand, Volk circles out. Now, even though Topuria is missing a lot, he's making his reads on what to do, right? If you've seen the finishing sequence, he follows Volkanovski, because Volk, when he's pulling out of range, he's not defensively responsible. So if you follow him and keep the exchange going, that's where a lot of mistakes happen. This is just a general thing in fighting. The longer an exchange goes, the more you're going to make mistakes. And Topuria forces an exchange to extend in the finishing sequence, at least. As Topuria is following Volk as he's scooting around the cage, Volkanovski decides to go for a inside leg kick, except he doesn't plant his feet. Keeps moving in to Topuria's left. Now, Topuria throws a right hand. Luckily, Volkanovski posts out his hand and it just skims the back of his head. But you've seen a lot of these exchanges. Topuria is getting very, very close, very, very early in the fight. Topuria again keeps working that jab to the body whenever Volkanovski kicks on the back foot, and even just trying to bait out counters. You see, goes jab to the body. Volkanovski tries to throw a check hook, and Topuria pulls out of range because he has such good footwork. Topuria is very good at moving his back leg, then his right leg, or his right leg, then his front leg, then his back leg, then his back leg, then his front leg. His footwork is what makes his boxing so good. And it's not exactly the same by no means, but it reminds me quite a lot of Shakur Stevenson, where superior footwork in boxing exchanges is absolutely fundamental. Here we get our first taste of those longer exchanges that I was talking about. Volk goes for a right hand, Topuria slips on the inside. Volk tries to go for a check hook. Topuria goes for a right hook. However, Volk keeps his shoulder very high and it gets smothered. Topuria just ever so slightly skims the left hook. Then, Topuria follows him to the cage. Topuria has a perfect opportunity to land the right hand as Volk's going for a check. However, Topuria wants to remain defensively responsible, so he puts his right hand up, and then shuffles forward, goes for the left hook, not only to cause damage, but this left hook helps bring Volk's lead hand away. Topuria takes a little step to his right to line up the right hand, and he just ever so slightly touches the right hand as Volk's going for another lead hook. Again, we see Volkanovski making the mistake of jabbing and then pulling his head away but not bringing his feet with him. Volkanovski goes for the lead body kick. Topuria jabs and tries to land a right hand while taking an angle. Volkanovski pulls back out of the way of this. Now, he does this correctly, but he takes another step back and squares his feet up. The thing about the lean back, particularly in Muay Thai, is you'll see to get such range when leaning back, they bring just one of their legs back, one to get more range, and two, you have more base. So defensively, you're a bit better off. Volkanovski has this right, but then as he's moving back, he mucks up a little bit. So if Topuria hypothetically followed him, he'd be able to get caught and hurt. Volk goes for a jab, and Topuria simply just slips on the outside and goes for a right hand counter. This lands, and as Topuria is moving forward, Volkanovski throws a lead hook, sort of moving back. It's not very well committed. It's a bit, he's not setting his feet properly. Topuria then waits. He plants his feet and gets ready to throw a right hand. Volkanovski uses almost like a long cross guard. Some people call it Dracula guard. And Topuria lands the right hand because he actually punches on the other side of Volkanovski's face. So what I mean here is he doesn't go to punch the left side of Volkanovski's face. He goes to punch the right side of Volkanovski's face with his right hand. Interesting stuff, but it works. He then steps through to southpaw and takes an angle so he can load up more power and lands a left hook as Volk's pulling away, as Volk doesn't pick up his elbow to block the left hook. Again, we see Volk jabbing and moving and just pulling his head all the way up in the air to try and get out of range while moving without a proper stance, as Topuria is just constantly slipping and just making his reads on the distance. Again, Topuria slips on the outside of the jab and lands a nice right hand, follows Volk. Volk's lead hand still down by his waist. Now, I get the benefit of this, but especially against a more combination style puncher with really good counters, having your lead hand so low, it's a bit risky. Volk switches to southpaw in this fight a few times, presumably to land the left kicks a bit better. Topuria paws at the lead hand and plans to throw a right hand. Volk pulls away. Topuria just lands just a little nice right hand. And Volk stands there and thinks, damn, he hit me pretty good. Volkanovski goes for an inside leg kick when he's southpaw, and he steps in very deep on this, and Topuria is able to get outside of foot position and land a right hand. The right hand lands because Volk can't pull away far enough because of how deep he stepped in, right? He's trying to put his lead foot back as he just kicked. It kind of goes back on an angle, and Topuria is still able to land. Volkanovski switches from southpaw to orthodox, throws a jab. He then puts up that Dracula guard I was talking about, except his elbow's very low. Right? Topuria steps through into southpaw, right? And his hips aren't facing Volkanovski's. He's got a full profile view on him, and he lands the left hook, right? He then switches back to orthodox by shifting his hips. The right hand sort of skims the back of the head, but it gets Volkanovski to start rolling, and Volkanovski is now parallel to the cage, right? He's not facing Topuria. He starts to try and roll under. Topuria measures, and as Volkanovski comes back up, right hook. Volk's feet are parallel. He's against the fence, and he's not under his feet completely. He's almost like squatting. So when Topuria hits him with a clean right hook, doesn't matter if you've been chinned 4 months before. That would have knocked Volkanovski out regardless. And the fight with that Topuria had with Max Holloway proves that. Topuria's superior footwork and his ability to capitalize on his opponent's defensive mistakes, particularly in the footwork, is what makes him so good. Now it's time to break down Topuria's most impressive performance to date against Max Holloway. Now, Holloway had a very clear range advantage, and it was expected that he'd use a lot more kicks. So, Topuria sort of comes out with a adapted boxing Muay Thai hybrid stance. It looks very weird, and to be fair, it kind of is, but having the weight on the back leg allows you to lift your lead leg easier, allows him to just block kicks better. And we see here, Holloway, lead high kick, Topuria, right hand, blocks, left hand, guides, picture perfect stuff. Topuria slips on the inside of the jab and throws a right hook over the top. Holloway is able to pull his head out of the way, but similar to Volkanovski, hand down, chin a little bit up. Then we see Topuria pump out a double jab. Excellent weapon in MMA. Jack Slack talks about it a lot. It's just really good. Pumps out a double jab. Holloway, instead of taking the angle, the double jab gets him to just back up, right? And as he's posting out sort of a long guard, Topuria is able to just skim a right hand. Topuria gets Max against the fence just through, again, that incremental footwork. He just plants a right hand on him. Holloway ducks down low to try and slip under the punch, and as he's coming back up, Topuria, almost like a left shovel uppercut, lands really good and gets Holloway to literally start running in the other direction, as Topuria has such good presence with his positioning that there's no responsible way to exit. Max Holloway, being the taller fighter and especially a good chin, it's a bit difficult to figure out what you want to consistently attack him with. Holloway, it's leg kicks, but Topuria, while landing great leg kicks, also goes to the body. Goes to the body with a good right hand as Max tries to counter with a check hook. Topuria just pulls out of the way, not too much, not too little. Again, Topuria always in a good position, not out of place, just everything done perfectly. He really improved his offensive mistakes since the Bryce Mitchell fight, where you'd see he'd overextend a lot and almost fall over himself. But you've seen ever since then, literally in his fight against Josh Emmett and onwards, perfect technique, always in the right place. Holloway, wanting to get away from the fence, throws a long right hand and starts gliding to his right, nearly switching stances, nearly. And as he's gliding, he has his hand down, right? Sort of for momentum, and it just makes moving a little bit easier. Topuria, however, steps back, pivots a little bit, and while Max is on one leg, just nails him with a right hand that gets him pretty jelly-legged. But just, again, being patient, capitalizing on over-aggression from Holloway. Holloway throws out a jab, Topuria getting low. He just eats the jab on the forehead and throws a right hand. Holloway circles out to Topuria's power side. Topuria misses the right hook, but again, look at Max's feet. They're almost crossed. Ask yourself, can someone take a punch in that position well? The answer is no. Holloway keeps his hands out quite often. and he almost pulls them outwards as well, and he gets them a bit low. And because Topuria is so short, Holloway is going to kind of try and match that height with his hands. Topuria just nails him with just that slip right hand to the outside, gets Holloway moving back. Topuria steps through with, again, that leaping left uppercut, which lands really good. Holloway is able to sort of pull away from the right hand, and then Topuria, as Holloway, is essentially stuck against the cage with his foot in the cage. Again, Topuria lands a left hook on the inside of Max's counter, and then lands another left hook almost around the gut, clubbing the back of the head, but just, again, longer combinations, having success with them. Topuria paws at the lead hand and then dips down for a jab to the body, and because he's dipping down and changing his levels properly, he gets under Max's check hook. Topuria then starts slipping, parrying Holloway's jabs. Holloway's sort of just kind of putting stuff out there. He then, again, steps right hand over the top. They reset, and Holloway goes for a really telegraphed right hand. Very long, stretching everything out, lifting up the elbow. Topuria slips on the inside of the right hand and lands a left hook over the top. That's how you land a check hook. Holloway kind of lazily pumps out a jab. Topuria starts ducking low. And when he gets low, look at his stance. Very athletic, very strong, loading up a lot of power. He then leaps into, again, the lead uppercut. Lands nicely. Holloway starts backing up in a straight line. Topuria steps forward. Right hand as Holloway's going for a check hook. Perfect stuff. Holloway again trying to match Topuria's level with his hands, sort of kind of pumping out jabs. Topuria nails him with the right hand. Holloway's like, okay, cool, he's ducking down really low. Holloway paws out and goes for a really, really long jumping knee that's very telegraphed. Topuria, long guard, pushing on the chest, stepping back. Just really good technique. Topuria paws at Max's rear hand. He then throws the right hand, which kind of just goes towards the back of the head, except he gets really close, and it pushes Holloway's weight to his right side. Right? Holloway tries to load up a right hand, except he's too close. He can't really get any extension on it. Topuria's switching an angle and going into southpaw, which allows him to land a nice left hook, which really does hurt Holloway bad and gives him a quick count of his teeth. Holloway pumps out the jab. Topuria slips on the inside, and because Holloway's sort of moving to his left, but not out, Topuria is able to land that right hand, and as Max Holloway kind of sits down a bit, he's able to sort of graze the left hook. To then reset, Topuria again able to slip on the inside and land a right hand as Max is pulling away, just rinsing, repeating the same combinations. It may not be as noticeable because Max didn't get hurt by all of these, but Topuria is constantly nailing him with just counter rights, right hooks, overhands, rights, fight-ending shots over and over and over again. Topuria goes for the rear hand parry and lands the right hand as Max Holloway stepping back. He then is able to land another right hand as Holloway's going for that check hook. The check hook, in MMA at least, is so incredibly risky if you don't time it correctly. There are so many times where Topuria lands his right hand because his opponent is going for his check hook, but lands well nonetheless. Then Holloway goes for a jab. Topuria kind of does a little slip and he feels the jab with his right hand to cover distance or to measure distance, and then shoulder rolls and steps back with the right hand. Just good boxing defense, applying shoulder rolls in MMA. Max Holloway throws a left hook, which was used to set up a body kick. Topuria, however, just plants his feet, eats the punch, and lands a good right hand. This is because Holloway at times incorrectly judges the range of his kicks, which makes him more squared when he throws them, like his hips don't turn over, which makes the right hand easy to land. Again, we see Topuria slipping on the inside of the jab and landing the right hand. Holloway switches to southpaw at the beginning of the third round to stomp on the lead leg of Topuria easier, as he was finding a lot of success with that, and to open up the rear kicks a lot better. Topuria, however, just takes these, rolls with them, just, again, not getting really hurt or faced by any of them. Holloway then tries to rush in with a body shot, right? And being the taller fighter going for body shots and changing a level, it's a bit risky. Topuria just nails him with the left hook, clean. Holloway goes back to the knee stomps, and Topuria's like, nah, just wags his finger at him. And 10 seconds later, this happens. Topuria goes for that rear hand parry. And as Holloway's stepping back in a straight line, switching his stances, right? He's not in his stance, he's halfway through a stance switch, so he doesn't really have his feet under him. Topuria hits him with the right hand. Max Holloway goes wobbling back. He starts looking like Topuria reacting to Holloway knocking out Gaethje. Topuria follows him to the fence. Left hook to the head. Or left hook to the body, left hook to the head, right hand. And that gets Max's hands up. Digs like a left uppercut at the body. Really goes into Max's guts. Holloway dips down. Like he is a lot more hurt by this than people initially realized. He then gets away from the fence. Credit to him. Topuria, with a flurry of combinations, is able to get Holloway against the fence again. He steps in with a right hand. Holloway times the knee decently well. Tries to go for a right knee to the body, except his hands, when he's trying to grab a hold of Topuria, are pretty low. This collision causes Topuria to go southpaw. He then switches his feet, and Holloway isn't really in his stance. He's a bit squared. He's a bit, parallel. Topuria pivots, uses that to load up the left hook. The left hook drops Holloway, and there you go. Topuria becomes the first man to knock out Max Holloway. Not even Justin Gaethje could do that. And to be honest, I think Justin Gaethje hits harder than Ilia Topuria. It was not a matter of power with Topuria. It is a matter of precision, timing, and perfect boxing technique that allowed him to knock out Max Holloway. Insanely impressive. The things that Ilia Topuria has done this year alone are legacy defining, and I am extremely excited for whatever's next for him. Except if it's Volkanovski again. I don't want to see that. No one wants to see it. I don't need to see my boy knocked out again. Right? We're just all in agreement. But regardless, that is how Topuria became Fighter of the Year in 2024. Anyway, guys, that's it for the breakdown. Hope you guys enjoyed and enjoy the rest of your day.